Welcome into the DNVR Avalanche Podcast, presented by Breckenridge Brewery, the official beer of DNVR, as we recap the NHL draft fully over. Before we get into specifics, AJ, we're a day removed from the first round. The Avs added 3 late-round picks. How do you feel about the Avs draft as a whole?
It's weird.
Okay, I don't disagree.
Well, because, and this is obviously what we're going to talk about today, but it's weird because the approach today, especially with 2 overage guys who could immediately join your AHL team, I don't know if that's the plan, but they can, is kind of odd. And I wonder if like the list just fell that way, or if it was an intentional, hey, we're going to try and get these guys like
in the
close
organization
to our, like
quickly,
in our system.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. And so it's that aspect of it is weird, versus making 2 first-round picks last night, not moving, and then doing nothing all day except just sitting there.
Yep.
Kind of strange. Just kind of a strange approach, I think, where it almost looks like 2 different philosophies of you have 2 picks that are going to be, they're both at least 3 years away, and then you've got 2 picks at the end of your draft today that you could slide into your AHL team and think,
let's see what happens.
Yeah, and like maybe they can provide a little value there. And so I wonder, the late round overage guys, they actually got one. They hit one a couple years ago in Niels Oman. They just didn't sign him.
Yep. And this is conceptually, I don't hate the taking overage players, especially with your late round picks. But for Colorado specifically, historically, they have not done anything at all successful with these guys.
Yeah. I mean, you remember Brandon Sagan was coming off such a great OHL career, and we were like, hey, he could join your AHL team immediately. He did an overage year in the OHL and then disappeared into the ether.
Yep. Played in the ECHL for like a year with Colorado, and then they didn't keep him. And this has happened with a handful of other picks that Colorado has made as well with these overagers, where they don't seem to know what to do with them. They don't put them in the AHL right away. They often let them do another year, whether it be an overage year in the juniors or if they're European, whatever European league they're in. And then if they do sign them, they tend to end up in the ECHL, or they don't sign them at all because they have to make that decision a little bit faster with overage players. And they just haven't been successful in doing that. So
I think my counterpoint to that would be that's not unique to overage players. They don't,
for sure.
They haven't. I mean, they didn't know what to do with Sampo Ranta.
Obviously, they've been wildly unsuccessful with late round picks for a very long time now.
I mean, even mid round picks. Like right now, it's Jean-Luc Foudy and Justus Onanen are carrying the torch. But let me ask you, Onanen's path is a little more clear, and he's gotten games in 2 straight years. We think he's going to get games again next year. You know, injuries are always a thing that pop up. But as much as we like Jean-Luc Foudy, where is he fitting in this roster right now? Now, I know that their free agency is still a couple days away. They're going to sign guys. They're going to bring Cogliano back, I think. And they're going to put veteran dudes in front of him. They're going to need to get injury issues. What's the plan here? Yeah, what have they learned from the Alex Newhook thing? Because I don't know that they're going to end up learning anything from what went wrong with Alex Newhook. And they're just going to say, well, we pivoted to a more championship ready made player and we don't have time to wait for that guy. And if that's the case, why did they just take 2 first round picks?
Yeah, I mean, this is how I felt yesterday is and look, you can feel fine about in the moment, Ross Colton might be better than Alex Newhook for the roster. Maybe.
No doubt. I mean, I don't think there's any doubt about that.
But those first round picks aren't making you any better right now. So you're kind of splitting the hair there with your philosophies.
Well, and like I know last night there were a lot of people in chat that wanted to talk about, well, why would they bother making the picks? What's the point of this? Well, you have to make picks at some point.
I mean,
if you literally just punt on the draft for 5 years, you're going to have a really hard existence, because at that point you are not going to have any cost-efficient guys at all, unless you are getting really lucky with the Evan Rodriguez's of the world every year. That's very, very hard to do when there are 31 other teams trying to do
the exact same thing.
Exactly. Trying to go out and do the same thing. So, like, I'm just sort of, I guess I'm just a little confused, because it feels like they made picks last night and they got 2 prospects that they really liked because they feel like they were supposed to. And I guess I would wonder, what's the sense of urgency in doing it now? Now I know this draft class is one that a lot of people in the NHL liked more than others. But if you were going to do that, I understand really liking Mikhail Gulyayev.
I think there's a talented player there for sure.
I think there's a really talented player there who really fits their
organizational
play style
tactics,
yeah, and it's not hard at all to see that his contract expires in 2025 and him becoming a 1-for-1 Sam Girard replacement, if Sean Behrens hasn't already done that.
Yeah.
So that's fine, that's all good and well, but if you were worried about your prospect health overall, wouldn't it have just been better to move down and continue to accumulate assets and do that? Like, it still strikes me as sort of an odd philosophy. I guess an odd approach to it. Now, coming out of it, they've got 5 guys. They've got, you and I were talking about this walking out of the studio last night. These 2 guys are already in their top 5 prospects.
Yeah, their 2 first-rounders are.
There's no doubt about that. Like,
obviously we're not as high on Ritchie as some, but you could certainly make the argument that both of them are top 3.
Yeah,
I think Kovalenko's probably maybe even top 1, if not top 2 of these guys. But after that, you could have both Gulyayev and Ritchie in the Avs organizational depth chart. So,
yeah. I just, I guess I'm just sort of curious about what, I wonder what their, I don't know. I guess I'm
what's the game plan from here?
Yeah, well, and because, okay, so you have a couple more prospects, that's fine, but they've shown very little ability
to get them to the next step. Yeah,
since they really broke in and got into Logan O'Connor and Bowen Byram, since they got into this competitive window of making the playoffs every year and being this group, Bowen Byram and Logan O'Connor are really the only 2 young players, and I get Newhook did, and that have come in and broken into the roster, but Newhook, you felt like they didn't, and I didn't go onto the Newhook pod and talk about how I felt about it. I was pretty annoyed that day, but really I feel like look, development and all that stuff, it's very complicated, and anybody that tells you they know where it broke down is lying to you. But I don't feel like the Avs did enough to help Newhook in his development. I don't feel like they put him in positions to really get the most out of his game, and they kept jamming a square peg into a round hole, trying to get it to be a round hole, trying to smooth off the edges and say it was a round hole all along the way. All you had to do was believe.
So I think that's true.
And I want to build off of that concept of, okay, so they don't get it right with Newhook, but where are they going to get it right with Jean-Luc Foudy, and where are they going to get it right with Sean Behrens? Where are they going to get it right with these 2 guys? If you can't get prospects into the NHL and into jobs unless they are extremely limited, like Logan O'Connor, or they are tip-top elite prospects like Bo Byram and Cale Makar, if those are the only 2 pathways, there's a huge gap between them that they continue to fail. Why bother?
So here's my problem with what you're kind of digging at here. You have an Alex Newhook who you feel like has the skill and you're not willing to work a little bit harder to give him the opportunity to show off that skill. And then you look at the long list of, particularly, I think you get into forwards, the Shane Bowers, the Martin Kaut, however you want to feel about them. Mm-hmm. Some of these other prospects who project as more depth forwards that never really get the opportunity to be that in the NHL in this organization. And you fall into this weird space where, okay, yes, you have Logan O'Connor, who dominated at the AHL level, and you were still able to turn him into a depth forward in the NHL. Great. But if you're drafting players that you're expecting to be depth forwards, how do you get them from a 30-point AHL guy to the NHL? Because it seems like they aren't willing to give the opportunities nearly as much to those guys, and instead settle with a Newhook as a depth player where he doesn't really fit that mold.
And, you know, and looking forward, we're talking about Jean-Luc Foudy, but Oscar Olaussen's sitting right there on your AHL team, playing on its fucking third line.
Yep.
And I think it's fair to ask questions about, like, hey, like, they don't know what they're doing here. Like, I feel like they don't know what they're doing is a really harsh criticism that I don't want to levy, but more like, I just feel like they don't have a plan for how to get these guys from point A to point C. There's no B. It's I'm going to drop them into the NHL and just hopefully they figure this thing out.
It's not that they aren't trying. It's
right.
They don't have the roadmap, right?
Like, Logan O'Connor gets hailed as the great example here, and it's like, you guys have gotten one fourth liner.
Yep.
An undrafted guy. Yeah, and this comment from Brad, they don't know how to balance between winning and developing. This is where I think they failed with Newhook.
Yep.
Because they spent so much time. I mean, look, they won a Stanley Cup, and we've said, when you win a Stanley Cup, all things are justified. That's the ultimate end goal. It's extremely hard to do. It's fine. But the fact that we're having this conversation again about more prospects that are not working, and the only reason we're having this conversation now is because it's fair to wonder, okay, the draft just finished. They just added 5 prospects. Why should I be excited about this? Why should I be excited that they added 2 first-rounders? That they said, hey, this is a really good draft. These are the guys that we're going to target that we want to build into our program down the road. And they're going to inject some youth and some skill and some much-needed young life into our NHL team in a couple of years when they're on ELCs. And they're going to be cost-efficient, and it's going to go great, and we're going to get them onto the roster, and it's going to, this is going to work. It's going to work. Because it hasn't in a while. Like, Newhook in no way it was a bust for me. No. I was disappointed by the production, but I was as disappointed by by the job that they gave him.
Yep.
And last year they had every excuse. They had all the injuries in the world, and instead of, hey, we're just gonna put Alex Newhook into a 16 minutes per night role and just see how it goes for a month while we've got all these injuries, it was, we're going to play JT Conn for 22 minutes a night.
Yep. The opportunity just never really came there, right? And like, I get it. There's, to a certain extent, you have to earn those opportunities, but...
and it's chicken and egg, because it's like, what do you consider an opportunity? Dude, the fact that he gets to play 2 periods with some of these guys at the start of a game, and if it doesn't go well, and if they're losing the game 3-1, then it all gets broken up because, hey, we were trying to win the game. And in the end, it just becomes about, well, the winning is the end goal. That's what we're trying to do. And that's fine. I understand that that's where the organization is, and that they're talented enough to be in that window.
And the problem there is, yes, if you play Newhook 1 game there and he doesn't look great, the immediate thing to win the very next game, the best move might be moving him back down and putting JT Confer there. But in the long term, and we don't know this because we never got to see it, but there's a very real world where if you leave him there for 20 games and give him time to adjust, that he becomes a better option.
Right.
And that's what we never got to see.
And that was where that is an area where you do have to look at Jared Bednar, and you do have to say, look, man, this is where we saw more young guys than ever get opportunities last year to play in the NHL. But how many of them do you feel like truly got an opportunity? Shane Bowers played the best hockey he had ever played, got 2 shifts, got hurt, and we never saw him again.
Yep.
And it was fair. And your fourth line is bleeding. It's hemorrhaging talent. It's hemorrhaging bodies. You're injured all the time. And he comes back. He gets healthy. He comes back. You never see him again. Why is this?
No, even with regulars, we see Bednar regularly lean on, you call it his safety blanket of guys like a JT Compher, of guys like an Andrew Cogliano. Not that these are bad players, not that they don't deserve it, but at the first sign of a mistake in a game from a young player, you see Bednar just completely move away from even giving those players minutes. And look, I get it. Bednar's job isn't here to develop hockey players. His job is to win, to go out and win that night. But there has to be some sort of conversation of trying to move the team and organization into a better spot going forward instead of just trying to win every single game in the moment, right?
Yeah. Can we bring that comment back up saying that's just not true? Newhook was playing 13, 14 minutes a night in October. Yeah, he did. He had 1 point in 9 games, and everybody talked about how he had a bad start. His minutes went up in the month of November and December. He went up from 13 minutes a night in October to 14, in which his scoring took a big jump. And then in December, he ended up playing 16 minutes a night in 15 games. He had 5 points in 15 games. It's not amazing. It's not like world beating. But if you go and you look at Newhook, his most successful stretches came when he was playing the most.
Yep.
His production was worst
when he
was in the most limited of roles.
Yep.
Because that's not who he was. He needed to be put in different positions to succeed. And this is a larger organizational conversation that's not just about Newhook. The same thing is happening with Oscar Olausson in the AHL right now. And this is why and again, this isn't meant to be like this big grievance, pity party, whatever, but there is a whole conversation here about what the Avs are doing with the draft picks that they're making and why they're not working in translating them from draft day to NHL success story.
Where is the disconnect, and how do these prospects get the opportunities that they need to make that next step in their career, right?
Yeah. And I think that this last comment in chat of saying Bednar has to have development of young players in mind. He just has to. I agree. I think it needs to be a consideration of sometimes the guy just needs to let somebody go through it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm with you.
It would be maybe one of the very few. It would be one of the very few areas where I would say he might just need to loosen the reins just a little bit.
Well, and if nothing else, I think last year the Avs proved they can win games with half an AHL lineup. You can afford to give some of these guys some opportunity.
Right.
So you would like to see a little bit more of that. On that note,
you can do both. You can do both.
You definitely.
This is how the Pittsburgh Penguins have succeeded forever and ever and ever and ever. It's how Tampa Bay has succeeded. You know why Ross Colton just got traded?
Because threw him into opportunities in the NHL.
He was a mid-round pick that they let just marinate, and then they put him in a depth role and they let him work his way up their lineup. And then when he became too expensive, they traded him for a draft pick and then drafted a Ross Colton clone with that draft pick. Tampa Bay is the master at this. They do both of them at the same time, consistently over time.
By Pins and Aces. You can go get your golf apparel, the official golf apparel merchandiser of DNVR at pinsandaces.com. Go check them out today. They got all sorts of amazing clothes, whether it be hats, shirts, pants. Their golf towels are sick. Their DNVR ones are amazing. You can use code DNVR at pinsandaces.com to get 15% off your order. You can also get some of their specialized equipment, like the beer sleeve that goes right in your golf bag and carry beer straight onto the course, or the liquor stick that goes in your golf bag, and you can be serving drinks all day long from your golf bag. Bunch of amazing products. Check them out again at pinsandaces.com and use the DNVR code. And then, I mean, I guess you could do it during your golf round. I kind of think of it as more of an after a round of golf activity to smoke some weed, but you could do it on the course too with Kind Love. You can go check them out today. Kind Love, one of the first dispensaries ever to open in Colorado. They've been around since 2010, so they know what they're doing when it comes to their product. They're local. Everyone at the DNVR raves about their turbo sticks, which is a little like toothpick-sized stick that's infused that you can stick into anything. You can stick it into a normal cigarette if you want to, or you can stick it into a joint you're rolling, you name it, and it will do the job, if you know what I mean. You don't need to smoke a whole lot of it to get the job done. We'll put it that way. A couple puffs and you'll be feeling good. They great at what they do. They are fully integrated. They grow their own stuff and sell it themselves. So from seed to table, as they say, for their CBD and marijuana products. You can go check them out today. You can go to one of their stores in Cherry Creek or North Denver. You mentioned DNVR and you get the DNVR exclusive 25% discount off all Kind Love flower pre-rolls and the Turbo Joint line. Or you can go to kindlove.com for their full extensive menu and online ordering. All right, second period of the DNVR Avalanche podcast. AJ, I know we're kind of having an overarching conversation about the organization right now, but you look at these conversations when it specifically comes to Ritchie and then these later round picks. Gulyayev's a little bit of a different situation. He's signed in Russia till 2025. That one's kind of set in stone. But you look at these other guys, where are the paths to success for these prospects?
Where do you want to start?
Start with Ritchie.
Okay. So Ritchie, I think it's actually pretty clear cut for Ritchie. He's got the straightest path forward. He's already in North America. He's gonna have 2 years until he turns pro. He just had shoulder surgery 6 weeks ago. He's gonna be healthy for the start of next season. You're expecting a big D+1. If you're a big believer in Ritchie, like
he'll be healthy next year, and he
exactly
kind of needs to pop off. Yeah,
you're really expecting a strong D+1 from him.
Yep.
His path forward. Look, he needs to get stronger. He needs to develop. I think he needs to develop a little more playing with some pace. And then I think he needs to. I'd like to see a little more of a dynamic element get added to his game. I think at times it's almost too simple. It's too safe.
I don't know if simple's the right word. I know he gets a lot of credit for being a very intelligent player and having that ability, but I agree fully on. I think it's too passive and too safe at times.
And I think I want to see the defense continue to round out, because I think he does have the upside of being potentially a really good defensive center.
Mm-hmm.
Which, when you're projecting forward and how's that going to fit with the Avalanche, that's very nice to have.
Yep.
When you have Nathan MacKinnon as your 1C,
throwing defensive centers behind that guy just feels good. Yeah.
You're always gonna be like, okay, well, we need somebody to take care of the defensive end on some level. It doesn't have to be really good. You don't need a Selke guy. That would obviously be nice, but you don't need a Selke guy. You just need somebody that's like solid, right? And that's where right now they've got Ryan Johansson to do that, where it's solid. He signed for 2 years. You've got at least 2 years for Ritchie. I'm just going to repeat, this is the exact same conversation and timeline that we had with Alex Newhook and Naz Kadri. We just did this. So I do want to say, let's temper expectations that these are just, they're going to bump into each other so nicely, so perfectly. And then, he's just going to take that job when that guy leaves in free agency. No problem. No, I don't think, I'm not going to look at that and say that's where we're headed. That would be the ideal. And that's why I say it's the cleanest path forward. is because center depth is always going to be kind of a thing. Now, I want to see what Ross Colton's deal looks
ends
like.
Up being for sure.
Because if the Avs give him a 4 or 5 year deal, then there's that 3C job that you would like Ritchie to maybe get his NHL feet wet doing.
Yep.
Is going to be kind of taken for a little while there. So, but I would say that's what I want to, before I worry about him being any good in the NHL, I want to see a little bit more of an offensive pop from his game. And I want to make sure he sticks at center, because if he ends up moving to wing and becoming a wing, his value takes a big hit.
So here's what I will say. I think you and I probably project him as more of a third line guy.
Yeah.
You look at historically the younger guys the Avs have put on there. Obviously, we just talked about Alex Newhook, but you talk about even someone who's been successful there, like a Logan O'Connor. We're still waiting to see exactly what Ben Myers ends up being in the NHL. Mm-hmm. You're talking about 3 guys that are on the smaller side there. Ritchie's 6'3".
Yeah, well, and you're talking about a guy that's 190 pounds at 18.
Gonna fill out even, you're probably talking about a guy that ends up 210, 215, maybe even 220 or more. So you can start to see how, if you're targeting a path similar to that of some of these other prospects, he's a guy you drop into that bottom 6 and has the size, has the ability, in theory, when healthy, to play physically and fit a bottom 6 role maybe a little bit more of what the Avs need. Now, I get it. You never draft to solve your problems today. Mm-hmm. But how many times have we sat here going, well, if you put those 3 guys together, that's a pretty small fourth line.
Mm-hmm.
Ritchie will not have that problem.
Yeah, I do think that is one of your selling points, is that a guy that's going to be, and look, like, what did you learn about him this year with playing through all the shoulder problems?
He's a warrior.
There's a toughness.
Yep.
And that is because that's a make or break year for him. If he dislocates his shoulder early in the year and he has surgery and he misses the entire season, he's not a first round pick.
Yep.
You don't know where he gets drafted. You don't know how much money he might just have cost himself. You don't know what his future might have been had that happened.
Yeah.
And so he put his head down and he played through a hurt shoulder, a pretty seriously hurt shoulder, to be fair here.
Yep.
All year long, and still ends up a first round pick. For me, on that one, I'm tipping the cap and I'm saying that's a thing that you really love about him.
Yeah.
And when you do talk about the size and the intelligence, and hey, when you're projecting to the end, I know there are a lot of people who say, oh, if you have to talk about a player's size as a plus, that's automatically a bad thing. I think that's insanely reductive, because when you do get into the postseason, when you do get into get into like playoff hockey, do you ever find a team full of guys who are fucking 5'9" and 5'10" going really deep? The answer is no.
Don't think, if you take 2 players of exactly equal skill, but one of them is 5 inches taller, you're taking the taller guy every time, right?
Right. And it's because it's not just height, it's reach, it's a bigger frame to add more weight, it's more strength, it's being able to overpower those types of guys, those smaller guys. Like Ritchie's size is a plus, because size is always a plus.
Yep. And look, when you talk about, he's on the bigger side, he's a guy that's willing to play through injury, can do that. And not necessarily the same, because I know Cogliano's quite a bit smaller, but that dude has made a career out of running into stuff and playing through stuff.
Yeah.
You can be a very solid NHL player, assuming a base level of skill, on pretty much that alone.
I would also say, this could be kind of a weird comparison, but one of the things about Ritchie's game that I also like is, the Bruce Brown role and the Nuggets just had.
Sure.
A guy that came in and could support, maybe Aaron Gordon is an even better example here, but a guy that supports the stars and it just kind of connects everything together, and he puts all the pieces together. I think that's a thing that I've underrated or not appreciated as much as I should have about Ritchie.
That quote unquote glue guy.
And like I'm using the term connector. He fits all the pieces together. He may not be the main play driver himself, especially in the NHL, but as a connector, as a guy that's going to make everything work, there's going to be value there.
So
we honestly just kind of saw that kind of career out of JT Compher.
Yeah, you have to. I think I need to be convinced a little bit more. He's going to need some more versatility to be able to be that guy than I've seen out of him. But again, with Ritchie, this whole conversation, in 6 months, we could be saying, oh, his shoulder's better and he looks great. Awesome. Or we could be saying, oh, his shoulder looks better and he kind of looks the same as he did before.
Yeah.
And that's really what's going to shape the initial conversation around him.
And I think you and I are going to get an up-close look because
in a couple days here. Yeah.
Well, if he's healthy enough for the rookie tournament in the preseason, finally the Avs are going to have guys that aren't just invitees going out there.
Actual first-round picks.
Yeah, they should have. I don't know if Gulyayev is going to make that trek, but I fully expect to see Ritchie there and healthy. He said he should be healthy by the preseason, by that tournament.
Yep.
So if he's ready to go there, we're going to get a look, man, and we're going to get to see because he's going to be going up against top prospects from the other teams that are there. And you and I are going to get an awfully good opportunity to have to eat our own feet.
Happy to do it.
I mean, you and I, of course, would love to be wrong about this. We would love to be wrong about it.
I want to reiterate this because I think people misunderstand. AJ and I don't see a great NHL player of Callum Ritchie.
Yeah.
One, that's nothing against him as a person. I'm sure he's a great guy.
Of course.
It's just our eye as looking at a player and seeing ability level. And two, we could be super wrong. As with everyone who scouts NHL prospects, you're wrong all the time. And three, it's not like we want to be right about a player sucking.
Right. This is a really, I'm in our defense. I like this point because it's not like we want to take a victory lap if this doesn't work out. That's not what any of us want. We would like for all draft picks to work out. We would like for the 32 guys who got drafted the first round yesterday to be good players.
Yep.
Like, I'm not rooting against people to fail here. It's just, that's our personal opinion. And once they make the pick, like, our personal opinion on it
doesn't really matter, man.
It really doesn't. And this is why all last week you and I were joking around, oh, that guy sucks. We don't like him. Please not that guy.
Yeah.
But they draft him and it's like, okay, well, now part of our job is to say, here's the upside.
Yep.
Here's the path to success. Here's what you should be excited about. And to be honest with you, it's really not hard to see why people who are big in the scouting community are fans of the guy. Yeah. Like, you have a high character kid, you have a tough kid, you have a high hockey IQ guy. Like,
look, here's a little bit of a conversation. I think I see some similarities in Callum Ritchie's game and Martin Kaut's game in that intelligence level and the ability to read plays, especially if he can bring that to the defensive side. But then also he needs to be able to bring that physicality and that jump that we struggled to see a lot of Martin Kaut in the Avalanche organization.
Where I would say is the separator between those two is the level of engagement from Ritchie is at the moment more consistent. We'll see when he gets into the pros if that continues or not. But
of course,
that would be one thing that I for my money, that's literally the only thing keeping Martin Kaut back because.
I mean, I think even as is, he's an NHLer, but we've had this conversation.
Yeah. And if Ritchie ends up in that same caliber of player, he just needs to every game
consistency level.
Yeah, a little bit. Every game, just be who you are every game. He'll be in the NHL.
Yep.
Like that, I actually have full confidence in. How good he'll be.
That's the question mark. Yeah.
But for me, there's one thing that I can absolutely feel confident about. It's that I think Cal Ritchie plays in the NHL.
It's just, is it a fourth line guy or is it a middle six guy?
Yeah.
All right. On that note, we're brought to you by Illegal Pete's. It has been getting warmer and warmer, and maybe you want to go enjoy the sun on Illegal Pete's patio. The longest happy hour around from 3 to 8 p.m.
It's raining again today and tomorrow.
It's not rain. It's beautiful and sunny where I'm at, so I don't know.
Well, it's coming, buddy.
Oh, great. Looking forward to that.
You can tell we live 30 miles apart.
You're no kidding. Wherever you live, there's 11 different Illegal Pete's locations in the Denver metro area. So go check them out. Get their delicious burritos with fresh ingredients. Enjoy their happy hour margaritas. Whatever you want to do. In fact, there's one right next to the DNVR bar if you're coming and hanging out over there. Yeah, it's just a good time. It's good food. Go check them out at Illegal Pete's. Also brought to you by Shady Rays. We don't have our sunglasses on today, but if you watched our draft live show, you got a good look at our Shady Rays. Just two options of many, many different styles that Shady Rays has. You can check them out at shadyrays.com. When you order with code DNVR, you get 50% off your order if you get 2 pairs of sunglasses or more. It's basically buy one, get one free. And the best part is you have 30 days. If you don't like them, you lose them or you break them, they'll replace them for absolutely free. So you might as well try a pair. And if you can do whatever you want. You can switch them out. You can swap them in. All that good stuff. Even have goggles for skiers and snowboarders. So they got something for everyone. Again, go to shadyrays.com, use the DNVR code, or they have a brick and mortar at the Park Meadows Mall. Third period of the DNVR Avalanche podcast. Should we get into these depth picks a little bit here, AJ?
I want to talk about the Russian kids first because we haven't.
Okay, yeah. I mean, we can talk about Gulyayev.
He got overshadowed last night, and that was one of my big things coming out of it. Is I was like, I didn't properly hype that kid up enough.
Yeah, I tried my best. All right, I was like, I like this kid, even if he doesn't make a ton of sense in the Avs organization.
Yeah, and I think that's where, after last night, kind of looking at the timelines and looking at where we're headed, with the Colorado's defense, and with maybe a Taze extension and a new Byram contract, might force out Sam Girard. And if you're looking at Gulyayev, you're seeing a lot of Sam Girard similarities. Defensively, he's competitive.
Works hard, I'd put it that way.
Yeah. I mean, he's competitive. He does not shy away from having to put the work in.
Well, and he's a defender that defends very well with his feet, right? He will close gaps quickly. He will be on top of you.
You mentioned his feet. We should note number one attribute there.
By a lot.
A great skater. And it's not just acceleration and like the sexy part of skating, like the straight line speed, the breakaway stuff, flying up the ice in transition. It's a lot of the lateral movement. It's the edge work. It's the balance.
Yeah.
Very, very, very good agility on him. And you see that, honestly, more in the defensive zone than the offensive zone, where you see him. He's very, and in the article that I'm writing that'll be out 10 minutes after this pod is over, he's very sticky defensively. And this is where I think he draws the strongest comp to Girard, is because he's an undersized guy, but he's got a really good, active, disruptive stick, and he's really sticky with his skating so that he stays on guys. Now, physicality is going to be a problem. He's undersized, and he has no strength whatsoever. So that's an issue. Again, drawing a comp to Girard here. The physicality is going to be a problem. He is not going to win board battles with his strength. He will win them with his stick, and he will win them with his smarts, and he will not win battles in front of the net. That is going to be an area of concern. That's going to be a major limiting factor on his upside. It's why he got drafted 31st, not first. So this is the defensive zone is going to have very similar strengths and weaknesses to what we see in Sam Girard. Just the skating and the IQ. He's a pretty smart player, and he's really, really effective. I will say the focus drifts at times.
Sure.
Especially defensively, the focus will drift. Offensively, he might have been this draft class's best just breakout passer.
I think he might be their just best going forward transition defenseman in the whole class, like going the offensive direction.
Yes.
Defense, obviously not.
Molendyke, I think, has him on that. But yeah, breaking out and transporting pucks, defense to offense. Yeah. Very, very, very good at it.
He's so good at moving pucks the right direction with his feet. That guy picks up pucks and is just going forward.
But he also has, and I think he's going to have the best breakout pass that the Avs have had from a defensive prospect since Kevin Shattenkirk.
Nice.
Because that's a guy he can fire a 90-foot tape-to-tape breakout pass.
Perfect. And that's his future. That's where he's going to make his bread and butter at the NHL level for sure.
Yeah. His awareness, his ability to understand how much time and space he has. Now, if there's one thing in Russia, and this is super true in Russia, he's got time. The forechecking,
the holes in the gaps are large.
Yeah. And the forechecking in Russia is not aggressive. It's much slower. It's much more deliberate. In North America, it's very frenzied. Now, part of this is all the space that they have in European ice versus North American ice. All that space comes behind the net, where a lot of defensemen lose battles, and then have to take the puck and do something with it. This Gulyayev is going to be a very, very, very good fit in Colorado. This is the rich get richer. I wrote in my piece, that's the kind of pick that Colorado makes, and 31 other teams go, how did we let these guys get him? Are you kidding me? This is the last thing that these guys needed, was another one of these dudes. The salary cap might force them to give up Sam Girard and their precious little Norris men.
You just drop Gulyayev.
And you just drop Gulyayev in there perfectly. He is signed in Russia through 2025. That's 2 years. It's not that big of a deal. I don't think he was coming across before then anyway. He probably was not going to be, at least in the NHL.
Yeah,
he signs. Let's say he doesn't sign a new contract there. He comes across after 2025, and he's either AHL, NHL, I don't really know.
That's the question for me, is he plays out his KHL contract. Is he ready to jump directly to the NHL or not at the end of that thing?
I think his number one limiting factor is his strength.
Yep.
He doesn't have any, man.
Yep.
I mean, I'm pretty sure Sam Girard could bench press him, but he couldn't bench press Sam Girard.
He's got to add that.
And Sam Girard is smaller.
17 pounds of muscle or whatever.
Dude, he doesn't have any upper body strength whatsoever. So he has to fill out a little bit. And I will say that might be his number one limiting factor in terms of expecting him to get to the NHL quickly. 2 years ago, or I'm sorry, 2 years from now, and then maybe another year or two to really let him mature into his body. It really could just be, you just have to wait for him to fill out, because his offensive game and his skating might play at a low level in the NHL today. He had a late promotion to the KHL.
Yeah.
I want to see how he does. There is all kinds of reason to be excited about this player. So, all the excitement we don't have for Cal Ritchie, I've got for this guy.
The one, just to try and balance the scales a little bit, the one thing I will say, dude's not a goal scorer. There's not much to like there about his shooting ability.
I'm less convinced that that's true, because I think he needs to develop a more aggressive mindset on offense in general. He's very skilled with the puck. He's just not very assertive in that end of the ice. He started to be a little more later in the year, and when that happened, I think his game really started to jump a little.
To clarify,
I want to see more of that.
I think his aggression is fine on the rush. It's the half court when you're set up in the offensive zone when he gets too passive. I think part of that conversation is he's so good with his feet that when he's already moving, he sees the gaps and he just plays into them.
Yeah.
He has to work his way through the setup defenses a little bit more. I'm on the whole, I'm with you. I'm fairly excited about him as an Avalanche prospect. He's, Kovalenko's probably my number one in their system right now.
I would say so, if only I would say so because he'd be in the NHL if he wasn't here already.
But I think Gulyayev's my number two. So anyway, From one Russian defenseman to another Russian defenseman.
I just want to. So one of the questions here. Will Clausen said, "Sounds like how you discussed Barons a couple years ago. What are the differences between them?" Gulyayev is way more dynamic offensively than Barons is. Barons is like a good puck distributor. Gulyayev is a guy that will straight up defense to offense run that puck through your team and make a highlight reel play to a teammate for a goal in transition. Barons doesn't have the skating ability of Gulyayev, and he's also smaller. But Barons defensively makes up for it with a really nasty edge that Gulyayev doesn't have.
If you gave Gulyayev's Barons feistiness, he'd be in the NHL tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, you give a lot of guys Barons feistiness, it would really help their games quite a bit.
Yep.
That's a major selling point of why Barons outplays his size on a consistent basis.
Mm-hmm.
Gulyayev does not do that. He does not outplay his size. So he's going to have to figure some of that out. But he also already has an understanding that that's not a thing that he's ever going to be able to do. So he's already found avenues of success. Being really, really smart and good and effective with his stick is a big part of that. So anyway, let's move on to the next Russian kid.
Nikita Ishimilov.
Yeah.
The opposite.
This comment is correct.
the opposite of Gulyayev in every way. Not a great skater. 6'3", already almost 200 pounds.
Mm-hmm. Really physically developed already.
Well-rounded. The guy you're looking more at the defensive side of the puck.
Not as physical as you'd like from a guy that is already 6'3", 200 pounds. Like, you'd really love to have a thumper.
For sure. That just blows people up, Josh Manson style.
Does not really do a lot of that. Kind of has that Nikita Zadorov, plays at his own pace, and it looks lazy.
Sure.
Because it's just very, like, he just picks his spots where he engages at a high level.
Yeah.
But it's not like it's not like when Ryan Merkley where you're just like, oh, his controller disconnected.
Mm-hmm.
It's more of he's just kind of waiting it out.
Yep.
Heavy feet is a serious problem, but I think there's a decent defender here if they can get his skating up to snuff.
There's a certain caliber of skating that's just required to play North American hockey, right? Like,
yeah, and a certain level of he doesn't have the requisite puck skill right now to just make even a basic first pass, breakout, good decision under pressure. That's all going to have to be something that gets developed. Otherwise, it doesn't matter what level of defender he is; he's not going to make it.
Yep.
He doesn't really have that. That part of his game is still totally underdeveloped. What you do like offensively is that he's got a pretty good shot.
When you're 6'3" and you can lean on that stick,
yeah,
it goes pretty fast. Yep.
Puck go zoom.
Exactly. He did 11 goals this year in Russian juniors. So
yeah,
compared to 2 from someone like Gulyayev. So
yeah.
Look, I suppose we should preface all of these late round picks with they're late round picks. All of them are going to have significant flaws in their game. You find something you like and you hope to develop the rest of it.
I think what's interesting about Ishimilov is that he shows real flashes of things offensively
when he seems to step it up a little bit.
Yeah. But defensively struggles with puck skill.
Sure.
Where in the offensive zone, if he gets a hold of it, he can dance some guys. You know, there's a little bit of upside there. There are flashes, but when he gets put under pressure in the defensive zone, he crumbles, and he makes bad mistakes with it. Where you just say, okay, his hockey sense is not up to snuff. He doesn't read the ice well enough to know what play he needs to make if he gets under pressure here. And I if you're having that problem in the MHL and the VHL, oh my God.
Trouble. Yeah.
So I would say I think this is more of a draft pick, and he's 18.
Yeah.
He's the only 18-year-old that they took today. He's the one that this is. I don't mind this pick. If they made a pick like this every single year, it wouldn't bother me because this is a roll of the dice on physical ability.
Yep.
On a guy that is he's really, really physically advanced for his age.
And you hope he can put the rest of his game together, basically.
If you can teach him, if he can develop a little bit of skill along the way. And again, the defensive profile is already actually pretty good. So if he could get a little bit more of the offensive side of his game rounded out and developed, they might have a player here. It's going to take some time.
Definitely.
This is a 4 to 6 year project.
Yeah. The easy part of that is, hey, leave him in Russia. If he puts together, come calling.
Yep. Kind of the way that they did with Sharavalov, where they just took him and waited.
Yep.
And if you 4 years in, now you hope it ends a little bit better. But
yeah,
if you get that kind of timeline where, hey, after a handful of years, he's interested in coming over, great.
Then you have that conversation when you get there. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. The one thing, not in one of the better Russian programs.
Yeah, but you see those guys get moved all the time too. He could end up in one if things go well.
We know that Zhravalov moved around quite a bit.
Yeah.
So yeah, a fair point. You don't necessarily want to get
too wrapped up in that.
Yeah.
Can I go on to the next ones?
We're gonna feel very differently about this one, I think.
Jeremy Hansel out of the Seattle Thunderbirds, an overager, right, turned 20 in February. Also billed as a well-rounded defenseman. If you care about things like this, he broke plus-minus records in the WHL. Did have a very, very impressive playoff run with the T-Birds as they went all the way. But also he's 20 playing against children.
Like against children. Like there's this gigantic difference between 20 and 19-year-olds.
I mean, yeah, but there's also some 17-year-olds in that league.
I know. I just thought it's funny. It's not, it's not like a pro league where you're like, this guy's 23 years old and he's playing the Slovakian junior league.
Yeah, sure.
That guy's playing against children. No, I think this just happened to be some kismet because Z loves Brad Lambert, who played for the Thunderbirds this year, and I was watching their playoff run because of that. And this is a guy that you noticed on a team, that Thunderbirds team, absolutely chock full of draft picks and really good players.
Yep.
And this is a guy that stood out to you. A smart, like, just a good all around game. Not gonna do anything, any one particular skill. I don't think is going to
really
like bowl you over. You're not gonna watch him and be like, oh my god, that's skating or whatever. But if you were gonna make an NHL comp, my comp for him would be Devon Toews. Same exact size, same kind of smarts, same kind of does everything pretty well, but just knows how to play the game. Obviously, that's the extreme. Absolutely everything went perfectly, and in the super duper high end, rainbows and unicorns version of this draft pick would be Devon Toews, but stylistically, I think they're pretty similar.
Yeah, I mean, I think you would be lucky to get 60% of Devon Toews out of him, but
you'd love that.
Yeah, right. That's what I'm saying. And I do think there's a decent amount of stuff to like here.
I think there's a lot to like, other than his age.
One, his age, and two, I worry about his pace a little bit. Playing in a junior league, you can see the intelligence in his plays. You can see him, I think, particularly in the offensive zone in that league, he can regularly beat people defending him. But it sometimes feels like he's beating them in slow motion. And I worry about that at the next level, where I don't know if his agility is good enough to really be effective in the offensive zone in the way he is in juniors.
Yeah. fair enough. I guess I'm just less concerned about it and more concerned that he's just not going to be very good in pro hockey, where everything picks up, everything's faster, this speaks to your pace point, but where you just have to play at a higher level. And you wonder, a guy that's 20 years old, is this just a late bloomer? Again, Devon Taves is the guy that I picked in this example for a reason, is a guy that just took time. Yeah. He just kept getting a little better every year, and that just continued into his pro career. This would be a guy that, because he's 20, he's eligible to sign right now and go to the Colorado Eagles. I would do it. I don't see what point there is to giving him back into another WHL season.
I've long been a proponent of, if you're drafting a 20-year-old kid, you're drafting him to play pro hockey.
I think that's exactly what they should do. Now, we'll find out in the next couple of days what their plan is, what they think about it. But to be honest with you, they should be. He wasn't at the draft. Having not been drafted
2 years in a row. Yeah.
You can understand why he was like, I'm not going.
Yep.
But he wasn't at the draft, but I expect he'll be in Denver when they do the meet and greet with the draft class this weekend, which you and I will unfortunately not be able to attend.
Yep.
Hopefully one of Jesse or Megan asks about, hey, what's the plan?
Yep.
Is he going to sign? Is he going to go straight to the AHL? If he goes straight to the AHL, the Eagles have openings. And it would be nice to know if they're going to have this kid on their roster next year before free agency opens and they have to go sign 4 different Josh Jacobs to fill out that roster.
Random dudes. Yeah. It's, I think part of the issue that you're getting at with him and why I bring up the offensive side is, in the modern NHL, all defensemen need to be able to play a little bit of offense. The Jack Johnsons of the world are very, very few and far between.
Well, you look at where Jack Johnson is. He's on the absolute fringe of the NHL at this point.
Barely an NHLer.
Yeah. How many high-end defensive defensemen don't have puck skill in the NHL right now?
Very, very few. If any.
I mean, can you off the top of your head, can maybe chat can help us out here?
Even the top defensive defenseman in the league. Now, I know he's not good anymore, but like in Vlasic's prime, he was putting up good offensive numbers. He
had a great first pass.
So you just need a certain level of that, and that's where I really worry about someone like Hansel. I think he could develop into a quality professional defensive D, but I just don't know if the offense will be there.
I am open to all. Yeah, maybe. I mean, Tanev is certainly not. Tanev and a guy like Adam Pelech are guys that are like, they will just make the most basic of plays with the puck. They won't hurt you. And so, yeah, certainly not good offensive players, but I don't know that they're negative.
Like Pelech had 20 points in 60 games this year.
Yeah, that was nice for him.
So, and again,
anyway, yeah, moving on.
For a guy that you're taking in the 6th round, yeah, that's perfectly fine. There's going to be some holes there.
Yeah, like guys drafted 187th. Yeah, 187th. Like we'll see what this becomes. It would be a giant boon for the Avalanche to get
anything out of him, really. Yeah,
something.
Yep.
Out of the 3 guys they drafted today, you get one guy that gives you NHL games, and not like, oh, he played 6 games one time. Like, get an NHL player out of one of these guys, and you are thrilled.
Yep. The final guy, the 7th rounder, Maroš Jedlička. Did my best with that one. Another overager. He is a 20-year-old, but he's been playing in Slovakia in their pro league for a couple of years, so there is some pro hockey experience there. And he is one of the best offensive players on his team.
Yeah, I mean, he's been just a shade shy of a point per game guy in Slovakian's top pro league the last 2 years.
Yep.
He was the, I don't know if you know this.
Probably
Fun
not.
Fun fact time.
Oh, God.
The youngest player in Slovakian that league's history, with the Slovakian top pro league, I don't know what it's called.
I think, yeah, I don't know.
To score a hat trick.
There you go.
Last year.
Had he ever.
Like when he was like 19.
Fun.
Has been like a fringe draftable prospect each of the last 2 seasons. Played at WJCs for Slovakia twice.
Yep.
Did not score any points.
Nope.
0 points in 9 games. I don't know. This is all I know about him. This is it. That's it.
Look, of the few clips I've seen, he looks like he's a pretty fun skater. Has some
Good
ability
size.
in that. Yeah.
Again, 6'2", 200 pounds. He's already 20. He turns 21 in October. He needs to be in the AHL. Yeah, if they drafted him and they were like, hey, we're going to let you stay in
the Slovakian league's just not good enough for development. Like, yeah.
What are we doing here? Why did this happen?
Yep.
No. That's for me, that should be a hard no. Sign him to an ELC and get him to the Eagles immediately, and let's start seeing what they have.
See what he has. Yep.
He is 21 in October. You could make what I think would be a poor argument for one more year of Jeremy Hansel in the WHL. There's no reason this guy should be anywhere but. Now, I guess if he was going to go get a job in the SHL or something.
That I was going to say, like, if he goes to the KHL or one of the top professional leagues in Europe, maybe. Even then, if you actually want to develop this guy, you need to get him on North American ice and adjust it to that smaller rink. But at least you could understand a top professional league. The Slovakian league is not it.
I agree. I mean, I just think it's not it.
We'll see. Of the very, very little I saw of him, I do like he does have a nose for the puck in the offensive zone a little bit. He's one of those guys where he just kind of seems to find it a lot. I do think his shot isn't very good.
It was fun to watch his YouTube highlights where he just stood in the vicinity of the net, whacked away at pucks that just kept bouncing near him. And you're like, okay, well, he picks through the trash and nicely like that.
Yep.
This is a skill.
Yep. And like you take the positives there, and like you said, get him to the AHL, and let's see. So
I see that he's already signed for the same Slovakian team this year, but he probably wasn't expecting to be drafted.
Yeah, no kidding.
I mean, if he plays, I mean, it's not like the worst thing in the world, but if he plays another year over there, you're kind of just like,
what are we doing?
Okay, like neat, it's fine, I guess. I don't think it hurts him. It just doesn't push his career forward. And again, he turns 21 in October. I really hope we get to see him at Dev Camp.
That'd be fun, yeah.
Look, after Peter Kovacha a few years ago, there's no excuses not to be here.
You got to make it.
Yeah.
Get on that flight, bud.
Yep, you get drafted, get over here. What do you think? That guy had to think there's no way I'm getting drafted.
Oh yeah,
he got that phone call. It's probably 1:00 in the morning where he was.
It's same as the Manu Ginobili story of when he got drafted.
I actually don't know that story.
He's playing for some Italian team, I think. Oh. And the coach woke him up in the middle of the night to tell him he got drafted, and he didn't believe him. He's like, "Are you sure?" Like, nah.
That's good. I wonder if they had like the team captain like come in and be like, hey, and he was like, oh, you guys are funning with me, leave me alone.
Yeah. Nope, it's real.
Although I guess it's the off season, he's probably staying at his parents' house or some shit.
Yeah, fair enough.
I mean, he's not a millennial. He probably actually doesn't.
Yeah, how much does a Slovakian Pro League player make? I don't know.
I don't know what cost of living is over there. I really have no idea, man.
How would you rate this draft for the Avs? Obviously, they had limited mid-round picks. The first round is what it is.
Let's be real here about taking 2 overagers and 5 picks.
Don't love it.
I should say 2 20-year-olds with 5 picks. I don't like calling them overagers, but 2 20-year-olds in 5 picks. Those guys very rarely pan out.
Yep.
So with that in mind, and with just the fact that I don't like the Ritchie pick very much, I don't know how I give them anything more than a C.
It feels like a C to me. Given the assets they had, maybe a C-. You would have liked to see them maybe trade back one of the firsts.
Well, and especially because you also, the guy you take in the 5th round today in Ishimilov.
Yeah.
At the moment looks really limited.
Yep.
Then you take 2 20-year-olds.
If not for Gulyayev, maybe I'm probably giving him like a D.
Yeah, same. That's why it's a C at this point, is because they went with a guy that fits their identity, fits their style, is a perfect fit for the Colorado Avalanche, just like belongs. That's the only thing raising this boat right now.
Yep.
For me.
But
I also, in the NHL more than any other, the NHL and MLB, those are the 2 leagues that I don't think you should grade drafts.
Yeah. I mean, sure. You especially with the NHL being 18-year-old kids, right? You just don't know how those development processes are going to go.
Yeah. That's why I don't want to grade it. And I also feel like it's just not fair to grade. I mean, these guys all play in different leagues. Yep. Did they draft a guy from? No, they drafted 5 guys from 5 different leagues.
But AJ, NHLE is never wrong. It's always accurate.
Man, even the NHL, even the big proponents of that model don't even say that shit. I mean, yeah, obviously, Chad talking about Quentin Musty. Had they drafted him, it wouldn't have mattered what the other 4 picks would have been. It would have been an A.
I don't know about that. It's definitely a B floor at that point. But
I mean, if they gotten Musty and Gulyayev, it would have been an A+.
I'd have really liked that first round, but we don't live in that world, so
nope.
Tough.
I really, really, really hope we're wrong about this.
Me too. Like, I hope immediately Callum Ritchie shows up this year, dominates, is ready to make the jump to pros, and then becomes an NHLer that I don't know that he can become.
Yep. So,
is what it is. Now we wait for 3 years, and I make clips and highlights and prospect portfolios about it.
This, you want to touch on this question about Dev Camp?
I very quickly did get $5 from Jake Palumbo saying, AJ and Rudo, thank you for the free content. Much love from Wasilla, Alaska. Appreciate you, Jake. All right. Which prospect do you want to see the most of in Dev Camp to make a big step outside of the top guys? Pavel, Buyalski, and Romaine.
We don't know what the invite list is, for one.
Yeah.
So we really don't know. Every year I fall in love with one invitee. So
yeah.
Shout out Jack O'Brien.
It's hard to say if we're talking about guys that are actually on the Avs depth chart somewhere already. Even then, like, all the guys who would be fun are generally college kids, so they might not even be there. I guess it'd be interesting to see where Steinberg is at against some even competition now that he's technically in the Avs organization.
Yeah, I mean, you know that I'm a big Buyalski guy, and I just want to see if anything is there other than the fact that he's really fast.
Yep.
I want to see what's up with Colby Ambrosio.
Is he going to be there, though? Like, that's the thing. I don't know.
I don't either. Again, but if we're just looking at guys in the system.
Sure. Fair enough.
Those are guys that I want to see. I think Ambrosio is probably my number one curiosity.
Fair. I think he's an interesting one that I hope has some upside. But
yeah, I mean, his college career started off so hot, and then it's like been solid from there.
Settled into the middling, I would say. Yeah.
Yeah. And when you go through Colorado's reserve list, you're just kind of like, you know.
There's not a ton that really pops, for sure.
There definitely isn't, man. I mean, it'd be fun if Vlad Kamenev came back for Dev Camp.
That would be a thing.
If I recall, he had a really good KHL year.
Happy for him.
Yeah. He's had a couple of productive years now in the KHL.
I'll tell you what. I'll tell you who I'm excited to watch at Dev Camp after day one of Dev Camp. Anyway, we are going to wrap up today's show. We've been going for about 70 minutes, so we appreciate all of y'all hanging out with us today. We will be back tomorrow talking, well, honestly, probably more draft stuff, but
no, it'll be free agents.
Bro, you're right. I mean,
we'll be in studio with broken mic arms instead of broken mic ears.
Hey, yeah. I mean, it's technically the microphone, but that's why I'm using this thing.
Yeah.
Anyway, we appreciate all y'all, and we will talk to you on the next one.